We've got the church to thank for music theory. It's because of monks and priests who wanted to notate music that we were forced to develop a language to discuss said music. Composers like J.S. Bach used that language to compose like never before. Bach was a genius, but you don't need to be one to understand church modes, as you're about to find out. The scales of C major and A minor use the same notes. The only thing that changes is which of those notes is considered to be the tonic. However, each of those 7 notes could be the tonic, and this generates 5 more scales, for a grand total of 7 church modes. The names are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian and Locrian, and you could remember them as the major scale, starting on the first note, the second note, the third note, etc. But that's not very useful. Let's look at these scales in a bit more detail. Lydian is a major scale, with one exception. Pause the video and calculate it for yourself. 3, 2, 1. F major has a B flat, but this scale has a B, so the 4th note is higher than what we're used to. It's not a perfect 4th, but an augmented 4th, also called the Lydian 4th. So you could conceptualize Lydian as a major scale with an augmented 4th. Let's write that one down. Lydian, a major scale with an augmented 4th. I've added the harmonic analysis because each scale also goes with one chord in the major key. Mixolydian is a scale that goes with the 5th note, and so it goes with the 5 chord. Which kind of chord is the 5 chord? Answer in 3, 2, 1. It's a dominant chord, and the dominant chord is a major triad with a minor 7th, and so this scale is also a major scale, but with a minor 7th. Of course it's the same. Why would it be different? We're using the same collection of notes. Okay, so there are 3 major scales here. The natural major scale, which you've already learned and which is called Ionian here. And then we're adding Lydian with the augmented 4th and Mixolydian with the minor 7th. Let's check out the minor scales. Aeolian is natural minor, just with a new fancy name. However, Dorian is different. Calculate for yourself what the difference is between D natural minor and D Dorian. Answer in 3, 2, 1. D natural minor has a B flat, where D Dorian has a B. Now in the scale this is the 6th note, which means the 6th note is not a minor 6th, but a major 6th. Dorian is a minor scale with a major 6th. By the way, while we're at it, remember the video about minor keys in which I said a minor key has a flexible 6th and 7th? And because of that, a minor key more looks like this, where you got options on the 6th and 7th depending on what you want for this moment in your piece. If not, pop-up is somewhere up here, but if you're still here, Dorian actually adds to the flexibility. The minor scale has a minor 6th and minor 7th, harmonic has a minor 6th and major 7th, melodic has a major 6th and major 7th. Dorian now adds the combination of a major 6th with a minor 7th. Back to church modes. Next one we're going to calculate is Phrygian, which goes with the 3 chord. You now know how to calculate this stuff, so calculate it for yourself. Answer in 3, 2, 1. Phrygian is a minor scale with a minor 2nd. And now we're only missing the scale that goes with the 7th chord, the half diminished chord. And it's a doozy. Calculate it for yourself. Answer in 3, 2, 1. Well, the formula is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7th. So relative to the major scale, everything has been lowered except the 4th. And the tonic, because it's, well, the tonic. Anyway, you could think of it as a minor scale with a minor 2nd and a diminished 5th. And of course it needs the diminished 5th because it goes with a half diminished chord, and diminished chords are not diminished chords if they don't have the diminished 5th. So it just goes together naturally. The real value doesn't lie in knowing the scales, it lies in using them and recognizing the feelings they produce. See, many scales are used to just play a short melody over one chord, like maybe melodic minor. But these scales can actually be used as a basis for composition. Just like you can compose something in a minor key or in a major key, you can compose something in Dorian or in Lydian or in Mixolydian or Phrygian. Locrian is a problem though. See, Locrian has a diminished 5th. And so the 1 chord, the tonic or home harmonically, has a diminished 5th. This creates tension, and so home does not feel like home. You can't really resolve back home when you're in Locrian, or is at least really hard to pull off. Okay, first of all, there's a song called Clocks by Coldplay, and it goes something like this. Okay, so that was a famous riff from Clocks by Coldplay. Anyway, let's figure out in which scale this has been written. Okay, the riff starts out with D, A, F sharp. Those are those three notes. And then it continues to these other sets of notes. Now, which scale can we extract from these notes? Let's write it down. We start on a D major chord, and I'm just going to assume for a second that the chord we start on is the actual tonic, because usually that's the case. Which leads us to this scale. Now, which scale is this? Figure it out for yourself. Answer in 3, 2, 1. It's a D major scale, except we're supposed to have a C sharp, but we don't. We've got a C. So the 7th note is lower than we're expecting it to be. It's a major scale with a minor 7th, and that is Mixolydian. Clocks by Coldplay is a Mixolydian song. Okay, the next song up is When We Dance by Sting, and I'm first gonna play it for you a second. See if you can figure out for yourself which note is revealing which scale we're in and which scale we're in. The song goes on, but this is all you need. I know I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not a pianist. I'm just using my understanding and just hammering down on some notes. That's all it is. Anyway, using that understanding, I played When We Dance by Sting for you guys. This song contained this one note. Did you pick it out? Which one note made it a non-typical major or minor? If you did, you're not going to be surprised when I'm giving you the answer right now. So we started out with E in the bass. And melodically, we went to E first, playing the leading tone to E, resolving it up to E. And then we played the major third, anchoring this as an E major. So, after this, after we've played this, we repeat it with a variation. There's the variation. Now that little note there is an augmented fourth. I mean, we know this is a major third, and the perfect fourth is the semitone up. It's right? But this time we're going 1, 2, 3, augmented fourth. It's the augmented fourth that we're playing here. So this is written in Lydian. And so When We Dance by Sting is in Lydian. It's a Lydian song because it has this augmented fourth, but it's in the major tonality otherwise. Okay, moving on to the next song. Let me grab my guitar real quick. Okay, the next song up is Lonely Boy by the Black Keys. Maybe you remember this melody. Well, if you remember any of that, that's Lonely Boy by the Black Keys. Anyway, the song uses these three magic little chords. E minor, G major, and then A major. During the verse, it just keeps looping these three chords. Now, what do those chords create? Figure it out for yourself. Answer in 3, 2, 1. In the key of E minor, which we are in right now, this is leading us back to E. Anyway, in an E minor tonality, G major is nothing special. It's actually the major parallel to E minor. Then we're moving up to A major. Now that's the surprising one. A major contains A, C sharp, E. Now the A and E are nothing special, but that C sharp, what is that C sharp doing in the key of E minor? Because in the key of E minor is E, B, E, F, G, A, B, C. It's the 6th note. But in E minor we only have an F sharp. So it's supposed to be C. C natural, not C sharp. But we're playing C sharp. So what is that doing there? Well, it's a major 6th in a minor key. This is a song written in Dorian. The Lonely Boy was a Dorian boy. the Dorian keys.
The Black Dorian?
Okay, this time I'll tell you up front. We're gonna check out the song in Phrygian, and it's gonna be horrible for me to play because it's a hip-hop song. Hip-hop likes to use Phrygian because of the tension it provides, but it's not really a style that translates well to a solo acoustic guitar. So I just give you the riff that reveals we're in Phrygian. This is Get Your Freak On by Missy Elliott, and maybe you've ever heard this. And if you haven't, congratulations, you're young, you've got your life ahead of you. However, I'm not, so I know this song. Anyway, this starts on the 1, moving up a semitone, going down to the 5th, because 5-1 is a very natural way to move from, say, a dominant to a tonic. It sort of works like that. So we're just playing the tonic, then the color note, the note that makes this Phrygian instead of any other scale, then the natural 5th, going back to the tonic. So we're just really anchoring that tonic in place. You know, it's not a diminished 5th, it's a natural 5th, we're anchoring it in place. And then we are adding this color note to really make it sound like Phrygian. And this type of tension is just really popular in hip-hop music for some kind of reason. Oh yeah, that little extra note there is a minor 6th. It is also represented in the Phrygian scale, so nothing special there. Okay, for Locrian, it's actually really hard to come up with a proper example. There's like 2 pop songs that use it, but one of them is more of using blues cliches to justify these Locrian notes, but one of them is actually a gods to honest Locrian song, and it's Army of Me by Björk. Now, if you don't know it, neither did I, honestly, and it's very hard to play on a solo acoustic guitar, but I'll play you the main bass riff that already reveals why it's a Locrian. Let's play it. It's still really hard. Yeah, anyway, this is not the sort of song you would play on a solo acoustic guitar. What we're playing here is 1-1-1, minor 6, diminished 5th, minor 7th, 1. So it's the 1, then it's the tone that wants to resolve to the 5th, and we'll want to do that, but instead we're going to the diminished 5th. Oh, that's such a sour sound. And then we're playing the minor 7th, which wants to go back up to the 1. Not as much as the leading tone, but it still has this tendency to resolve back up to 1. That's such a weird little riff, but it's Locrian alright. This is a Godswan's Locrian song. It's Army of Me by Björk. And if you think this type of content has been useful to you, maybe you want to like the video or subscribe to my channel and you'll get more of this type of content. Anyway, let's move on because I'm going to give you guys some assignments so you can work this out for yourself, get better at it, practice it, and I'll give you the answers afterwards. Okay, the first assignment that has to do with notation and calculation is to notate these 4 scales. Don't use the accidentals that are stuck at the start of the staff and then correct them. Just use accidentals on each separate note. And well, do your best and I'll give you the answers afterwards. Okay, coming up next, these are 4 scales of which you need to figure out which scales they are. Calculate it, figure it out for yourself. You know the answers will come afterwards. And one last little practical example, in which scale is this melody written? And that will be all for calculation and notation. Okay, for this assignment I'm going to play something and you're going to figure it out by ear. This is Mad World by Gary Jules, and I'll just try and play and sing a small section of it. It's up to you to figure out what the chords are and which key, or rather which scale, we are writing in this song. Okay, that's your assignment. Let's check it out. All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. The chorus. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. this is such a sad song, Christ. Anyway, try and figure out which scale we are writing in and figure out the chords. We'll give you the answers afterwards. Okay, now that you've notated and calculated some of this stuff, let's start to get some practical experience with these scales. And the first thing I recommend is, of course, number singing. Going 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, augmented fourth, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, augmented fourth, 5. If you can sing Lydian that easily, you're done with Lydian. And you can try and do this for Mixolydian, Dorian and Phrygian as well. Locrian as well, but focus on the others first, because we actually compose with these scales. And although Locrian definitely gets used, it doesn't really get used as a compositional tool, so it's less important in that sense. And on top of that, you'll also have to practice this on your instrument, and I'm going to teach you something about the pentatonic scales, which are not that important to me right now, but we're going to use them to get better at the church modes, and I'll reveal this to you in a second. This is the minor pentatonic scale. It has a tonic, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, a minor seventh, and then we're back at the tonic, or at the octave rather. This scale is missing the second and the sixth, and those are just the exact notes that differentiate between the minor church modes. Dorian has a major sixth instead of a minor sixth. Phrygian has a minor second instead of a major second. So if you can play in this scale, and you can add that major sixth or minor sixth, just somewhere in your improvisation, try and add this minor sixth or major sixth. And this way you can use the pentatonic scale as a basis for improvisation, adding in those few notes that turn it into a church mode. And you can do the same thing with the major pentatonic scale, because this one is missing the fourth and the seventh, the augmented fourth from Lydian and the minor seventh from Mixolydian, or the major seventh from Lydian and Ionian, or the perfect fourth from Mixolydian and Ionian. Those two notes cause the differences between the church modes that are major. So you can use pentatonic as a basis for improvisation and composition really, and then add flavor notes to turn it into a specific church mode. Hopefully this will help with improvisation and composition. Okay, those are all the assignments. Time to get to the answers. If I'm going to notate a D scale, I can start out by first placing all the notes just in alphabetical order. Now the question is, where do I need which accidentals? We're in Phrygian, so we need D Phrygian. That's D minor with a minor second. D minor has a B flat, which means if I create the minor second by placing a flat sign there, we are done. This is D Phrygian. F Dorian, let's start and end on F. F Dorian. Dorian is a minor scale. The key of F minor has 4 flats. However, Dorian removes one of those flats. We used to have B flat, E flat, A flat and D flat. However, in F the D flat is not present because we raised it to a proper D. So we still have E flat and we still have B flat and A flat. Now that's one way you can calculate these scales. There's another way you can do it. I'm going to do that with these last two. I'm going to start with G flat Lydian. G flat can be found right here. That's G flat. Now I know in Lydian I have a major second and a major third. And now I need this augmented fourth. It would be, the perfect fourth would be C flat, but the augmented fourth is C. Now we're going to go up to D flat, which is the fifth, E flat, which is the sixth, and F, which is the seventh, and then we got G flat again. All I did now is remember my pattern of whole tone, semitone, which is what it would be in a major scale, and then whole, half. And I just adapted that one note that needs to be adapted for this specific scale. So you can go note by note, or you can do the whole scale at once and then add the accidentals. Whichever works for you. It would be best if you could do both. So let's do it again here with the B Mixolydian scale. This is where we got B. Then we need C sharp, because that's a major second. D sharp, because that's the major third. E, because it's a perfect fourth. F sharp is the fifth. G sharp is the sixth. Now we need A, not A sharp, because we're in Mixolydian. It has a minor 7, so we need A, not A sharp, and then B finishes this scale. Okay, well, while we are at it, let's check out what we had here. First, we need to recognize which notes we are starting and ending on to know which scales these are. Here we're starting on E. So this is going to be some kind of E scale, some kind of B flat scale, some kind of A flat scale, some kind of C scale. We just need to figure out which one. E major has 4 sharps, so we got 5 sharps, so that's handy enough already. One of the notes has been raised. Now there's only one answer for which can be raised. It's the augmented fourth in Lydian, but let's check it anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that, that's an A sharp instead of an A. I mean, it would have been A in the key of E major, but now we've got E Lydian. Okay, B flat has 2 flats. That's way too many adaptations for this to be a major scale. B flat minor has 5 flats because it's the parallel to D flat major, which has 5 flats. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4 flats, not 5, because this is the octave. These two are the same, so we only have 4 flats, meaning we have 1 less than we would expect. So this is probably Dorian. Phrygian adds a flat. Dorian removes it by turning the 6th into a major 6th. And we see here that indeed it is a major 6th, that is a G. In the key of B flat major, we also have a G, so we have a major 6th here. This is B flat Dorian. Although you can just check it note for note. You could say, in the case of E Lydian, just that's 1, that's a 2, that's a major 3rd, that's an augmented 4th. Let's try this method for these last 2 scales. A flat, this is a 1. B flat, that's a major 2nd. It's a whole tone up. Another whole tone up is C, so that's the major 3rd. Semitone, so that's a perfect 4th. Whole tone, that's a perfect 5th. Now we're moving up from E flat to F, another whole tone, that's a 6th. From F to G flat, that's a semitone. So now we have a minor 7th, not a major 7th. And that's the 1 again, so this must be Mixolydian. That's another way you could do this. Lastly, the C scale, we're going to use the same method. 1, this is a minor 2nd. Already, the options have been narrowed down immensely, because with a minor 2nd, it's either Phrygian or Locrian. So we only really need to know which note is the 5th. Do we have a perfect 5th or a diminished 5th? Well, let's check it out. This is C, D, E, F, G. It's above the line, yeah, it's G. There's no accidental, so that's a perfect 5th. So we already know this is Phrygian. But let's use this method anyway. That's a minor 3rd, a 4th, a minor 6th, a minor 7th, and 1. These are the answers to the scales. Now let's do the very last calculation exercise. It's this one. We have an F right there. That's a very important one, because this bass note is anchoring this note as the 1. F is 1. So this A is a major 3rd. That's a major 2nd, and that's a tonic. This here is the 5th. We already mentioned what this was, a 2nd, a major 3rd. This is the only weird one. We had a B flat, but we turned it into B natural. We sharpened the 4th from a perfect 4th to an augmented 4th. And so this is F Lydian. And those are all the calculation and notation exercises. Let's move on. Okay, Mad World by Gary Jules. You were figuring out the chords and which scale or key we are writing in. So let's check it out. I'm starting out on a minor chord. Alright, that's where we're starting. Moving up to the minor 3rd. It's the major chord on the minor 3rd. So from the 1 chord to the 3 chord. Then we're going up. Da, this is da, da. This is the 1 and we're on da. So that's on the minor 7th, and it's a major triad. A major triad on the minor 7th. So that's the 7th chord, just what you would expect in a minor key. And then da, 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 da. I can't go so low. Da 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 da. This is 1 and we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're on the 4, but it's a major triad. It's not major third. So what do we get when we have a major triad on the 4 chord? It's Dorian. Again, if we would do this in the key of E minor, we would have the C sharp that we saw earlier this lesson. In this case, I'm in the key of F minor. And so we got a B flat, which has the note D, which in the key of F is a major sixth. Either way, the major sixth is represented as the major third of the 4th. And that's a pretty typical way for Dorian to reveal that it's Dorian in the minor key. Anyway, we're moving on. Remember the importance of composition and improvisation. If you want to be fluent at music, you have to compose using this stuff, and you have to compose something you like. It's not good enough to just compose something because the teacher told you so. You have to prefer using this concept over using that concept. And if you don't prefer it and you're using it anyway, you're not getting it. You're supposed to say something you want to say. So compose and improvise, and I would love it if you guys would share your compositions in the comments. I'll give you feedback, other people can give you feedback as well. Let's get this community off the ground. And that was everything. Let's recap what you've learned this lesson. We've got 7 church modes: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian and Locrian. Each of the church modes corresponds with one note from the major scale as its tonic, which means that each of the church modes goes with one chord from the major scale and goes with a certain chord type. It's best to remember the church modes as a major or a minor scale with certain adaptations, because this helps you actually put them to use in your own improvisations and compositions. Which also means you can group them together like this: the major scales together, the minor scales together, and Locrian. The most important thing to remember about this when you're composing is to make the tonic feel like the tonic. Now if you're using a 4-chord structure where 4 chords are repeating all the time, starting on your tonic is very important if you're playing in Lydian, Dorian, Phrygian or Mixolydian. Another way you can do it is just staying on the tonic for a very long time. Shifting away for a short time, then staying on it for a long time, like When We Dance by Sting did. So another way you can go about this is using a pedal tone. We haven't talked about this yet, it's not that big a deal, this whole concept, but you can use the same note continuously in one specific place in your chord, for example, as the top note maybe, to help that note feel more like the tonic. If you're playing in the key of C Phrygian and you're putting a C at the top of each chord, you might be changing the chords, but still C is going to feel like the 1. Another common pedal tone is the bass note. Playing C in the bass will let you play any triad over it at the very least, and then you can play a song where that bass note will feel like the tonic, even if you're composing in Locrian, which could be a fun little experiment for you. So do with that info what you will. This was the recap. If you've been following this playlist, you've been diving deeper and deeper into the inner workings of music already. To me, what we're talking about right now is much more interesting than what we talked about in lesson 1, but I hope you see that that was necessary for us to even begin talking about these things. This lesson gave us some important information, but next lesson we'll be applying that information in new and interesting ways to create much more flavors and emotion and add nuance to what we're trying to communicate. Click here to watch that one and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on content, or of course get your instrument and start practicing. It's the best way to become fluent, so go make some music.